we crap on a lot of movies. We watch a lot of movies. Some we like, some we don't like. So they're not all perfect. And when these kind of moments happen, like I think this is a moment. I think this movie and Christopher Nolan just had a quote. I can't. I'm not. I'll try to paraphrase. He said that this is what art is supposed to be. You have to go out and look at the quote. He was praising it about how
Well,
That's
the
awesome.
good was for the art. So just let me and
yeah.
yeah, just don't take advantage of what this moment is and any moment moving forward. Like I want to watch everything with a fresh set of eyes and feel like I'm watching something great.
Wow. Amen, brother.
Yeah.
We should have ended on that.
That is a great
Damn.
point.
What's up, guys? Film Schmucks. You know us, you love us, you hate us. Some of you. Ever since my Parasite review, oof. But this week we watched. I mean, this is one of the biggest movies in the U.S. I don't know what the numbers are yet, but I'm sure these two bozos have the statistics. But Dune, the Frank Herbert novel, come to life for a second time. First time canned. People's panned by the critics and the fans. They didn't get it right. Did they get Dune right? Let's find out. Film Schmuck, sorry.
Damn,
All
that was
right.
good. That was a good intro.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, great
I
job.
thought I was
Good
going too
job.
far with it. All right.
You know, it, I'll
Anyone want to
go.
start off? Yeah, go.
Let's go. I had probably one of the best. The people say this a lot lately. Best theater experiences I've had in a long time. I can't. I mean, Free Guy was really good. This movie w was going full throttle on all cylinders, and I mean, we'll go into details obviously throughout, but my goodness, I was hoping that I was gonna like it. I did not know how much I was gonna like it, and actually, it took me a couple days to digest what I watched. Even coming out of theater, I was just thinking like, man, what? I was so much to think about. I don't know the source material. I don't know much about it, but my goodness, was I impressed. There were some things here and there, maybe a nitpick or two, but wow, what a film! I mean, I'll say it now, Dennis Villeneuve or what I forgot how to say his name. I'm sorry. I apologize. Um,
For
I did not.
absolutely nothing.
As we reviewed Blade Runner, I thought it was a little too artsy. I didn't. It was too focused on. It felt real small. The scope, even though the cinematography was really good, I really didn't enjoy it. Arrival, I really enjoyed it. So he was kind of 50, it was 50-50 going in on movies I've seen of his I liked, but this blew all my expectations out of the water.
I'm going to ask you
Wow.
this, Trey.
Trey turned
Are you
face.
trolling?
Can't believe
Why? What? Why would you say
Because,
that?
it.
because last week you
He did that
trolled.
last week. Yeah. Yep.
No, no, no.
I did
That was
too,
you and
but
me.
everyone forgot about that. But yeah, I'm holding
Yeah,
your
that
feet
was
to
you
the
and
fire,
me,
I
man.
man.
didn't.
Okay. You're
It was
not.
your
This
idea.
is your genuine review.
What's that?
This is your genuine review?
Well, we're gonna talk about it, but I generally this I had more fun at Free Guy,
Okay.
but this is my second favorite movie of the year, and
I'm
maybe
Wow.
top five in the last 2 years easily. I
okay.
mean, this was very well done.
Okay. Okay.
You
I'm
mind if I
kidding.
go, Matt?
Well, it sounds like I was setting it up to go like because this was a piece of trash or whatever. No,
Yeah,
we were wondering. I was like after Blade Runner, and then this
yeah,
one because it is a pretty slow movie. I was like,
yep.
I
Yeah.
had to say, I was thinking in the theater. I'm like, Trey's gonna hate this, so that's why I was making sure. I was like, I gotta make sure.
Yeah.
No trolling. I need to watch it again. I might have to go to the theaters because
I
I to see if I love it.
this is the best thing I can say about this movie because I'm not necessary. Here's the thing: I didn't leave the theater going, "Wow, amazing, what an experience," or anything. Like it is one that I sat and thought about. I was trying to be careful because
Mhm.
we know I have a history of watching a movie, and if it doesn't speak to me 2 seconds after I watched it, then I'll shit on
Yeah.
it. Parasite, but Clockwork Orange. Uh, But I really, much like Blade Runner, just the ambiance of the movie alone, the sound design was probably my favorite part, and the soundtrack, because in the theater, I'm so glad I watched it in the theater, because the sound design was so, like, I don't know. This director is great at putting you into a mindset and getting you into the zone.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I'll just keep it vague for now, or not vague, but just an overall quick thing. The worst I can say about this movie, because I'm kind of in the middle a little bit, is that there wasn't a lot of moments in the movie where I was like, holy crap, that was an amazing moment that like really spoke
Mhm.
to me. There was moments that I liked, there were scenes I liked, there's a couple things I could point out and go, oh, that was pretty cool, I like that. But like I said, I didn't leave the theater just like mesmerized or anything. I had to think about it, but that could be a good thing, and I'm allowing that to be. And so that's what leads into the good thing I'll say about the best thing I'll say about this is, at first I was like, I don't know. Did I like it or not? I don't even know. And then me and Christy talked about it. And we talked a little more about it. Today I got back from work, and one of the first things I said to her was like, I think we got to go see this puppy again. I think we got to go to the theaters and see it again. So that's the best I can say
Yeah.
about it. How often are you wanting to go right back to the theater to watch a movie? So I think that speaks well of the film, whether maybe I'll end up not liking it as much as I think a second time. But the fact that I want to see it again, I think speaks to the film.
Well, to jump off of your point about seeing it again, so I did see it twice,
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, and honestly, I do think it benefits a lot from seeing it at least a second time, um, because there are little nuances that my first viewing I think I missed, and so seeing it again with kind of fresher eyes, kind of more, I'm expecting more to happen because I've already seen it. I think that definitely helped my overall opinion on the movie itself. So overall, my thoughts are that I think just on the technical side, it's a masterpiece. Like the costume design, the set designs, the visual effects, the music, like it all is just it's all masterpiece. Like and so but for me, there are some issues that I have overall with. We'll get into more of it later, but I have some issues with some of the sound mixing at times when it comes to dialogue. And it's
Yeah.
not, this is not the first film to do that. I feel like a lot of epic movies, even like Lord of the Rings, there are
Mm.
problems sometimes with the sound mixing and not hearing dialogue correctly, or even like sometimes kind of mumbly dialogue. So that's kind of my main issue with it. And the other thing too is that obviously it's half the book, so it's not a complete story yet. But the best thing I can say about it is that the movie got me excited to see part two, and I have to see part two. Like I can't wait to see what they do to finish it off because I've never read the book. So
Uh, Man, there's a lot of good jumping off part. I think you summarized it pretty well. I did notice with not to go into nitpicks right away, but I did notice there was a couple times in the movie where I didn't know what someone was saying. Like
yeah,
I actually didn't understand the person, and I saw it in theaters. I think it's one thing watching it on the TV or whatever, but this is one of those movies I want to watch on HBO Max and put the subtitles on, because there was a couple of
yeah.
times where I really didn't know what a person said. Oh, really only like maybe two times. And most of the time I got the gist of what they're saying, so it didn't matter. But I think there was one, I actually remember it, so I'll ask you guys if you remember what he said. But um I was gonna say yeah, I think that was, what was it that we watched recently? There's something we reviewed that we
Well,
Halloween
Tenet.
Kills.
was that it? Where we couldn't hear people? There was some other movie where the sound
Tenet.
design. Tenet. That
I'd
was it.
say
Yeah, that
yeah.
Uh,
was it.
I mean, I heard that movie crystal clear,
Yeah,
but
I
I
do. No,
mean,
I remember Sterling complaining about it. Is what I mean.
yeah.
Uh, no, I'm joking. Yeah. Okay. Tenet. Yeah.
That was
Um,
probably my most negative review. Just to keep it.
we had a big. Me and Christy were trying to think back and go, has Sterling ever turned heel?
I thought
And
you liked it, but you didn't love it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go full heel. I don't know if I'll ever go full heel. I'm just saying that that was probably my
I
most negative reaction.
listen. Episode 50's coming up. Think about that, okay?
And we got a
What?
surprise.
And
Uh,
we'll see what
it's not a
happens with episode
surprise.
50, but and I'm going to say it to the fans right now, it could be the closest Sterling will come to turning heel if he doesn't turn heel.
Well, now I know what's going to happen. So, okay.
You never know.
Uh,
um, okay,
Yeah. So
so, go ahead.
where was the sound? So where was the sounds you guys couldn't hear or dialogue? What parts of the movie? Because I'm trying to think. There was times when I know in the trailer they show the worm part, and we're talking about cinematography or whatever before. In the theater, it got so dark. I could barely see
oh
what was
yeah,
going on. That's one of my nitpicks, but it's
yeah.
not even really a nitpick. It was just like, what? Dang, where's the dimmer switch in here?
Yeah, I actually
Like
thought there was a
crazy.
couple moments I thought something might be wrong with the projector because it was really
Yeah.
dark at times in this movie. And it didn't necessarily, people complain about movies being dark, where it's like there's a lot of shadows where it's filmed. This movie sometimes it really did feel like the settings were turned down on the screen or something.
Well, that I don't know if this was the reason, but I know a lot of movie theaters, they'll actually reduce the percentage of how bright the bulbs are to save energy costs
Are
and the
you fucking
projectors.
kidding me?
I'm not kidding. Like I've
That
read
if
articles about this, and
that pisses me
yeah,
off. So I think the movie was dark to some degree. And
Yeah.
and so it
yeah,
maybe if the screens were doing that, then this was the movie where it did not benefit it to do it. Although I did say
yeah,
some scenes I know were meant to be dark, mostly because I just watched Variety does that thing on YouTube. I don't know if you guys have seen it, where it'll have a director and they'll break down a scene of a movie. And so I
Oh
oh
yeah.
yeah,
saw him to break down the scene where Timothy Chalamet, aka Paul, sticks his hand in that little torture box or whatever.
box.
And he was breaking down the scene, and he said that it was intentionally really dark because he wanted it to seem like a nightmare, kind of thing.
Yeah,
So I know it was intentional to some degree.
Well, that one I didn't even notice. That one was fine for me. It was just that for the
Yeah,
one time was the worm in the desert. Like I know you want to go real natural, but dang, this is I
yeah.
could barely
well,
see him.
Is
well,
this
the
a
one
giant worm or Ron Jeremy's penis? You know?
it did look like a penis. But anyway, I was gonna say that in that
Uh,
scene in the desert, one thing that didn't help is the fact there wasn't really any contrast. I feel like contrast is what helps like really dark scenes kind
Oh,
of look a lot
because it
better.
helps
Um,
things stand out a little more in the dark.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, but cinematography though was pretty much perfect. I feel like
God, there's
throughout this
people
whole.
out there. I mean, I don't want to get into about everybody. It's subjectivity. It's this. It's that. But people saying that this was bad. There's people saying it was bad, and
I don't
I'm
get
like,
that. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
what?
Well, I get not liking it, but
Yeah,
and I will even point to some major things that I think were troublesome. I'd say about the movie, why I didn't like it. Not like it, but the problem. I think there were big problems in certain areas, and by big, I just mean bigger things that I didn't care for as much. But as far as just a movie, cinematography, the music, the sound, the setting, everything you said in the intro, Sterling, it's hard to say that you can't say this is like this is a bad movie. It's like at most you
yeah,
can say you weren't into it. That's what I feel like. It's like
yeah.
at most you can be like, this wasn't my thing. But it's hard to be like, this was terrible. It's like,
Well, here's the thing, and this is one of my expectations for this movie was, okay, this is going to be a science fiction film, and there's going to be a lot of world building and politics, and like as far as the world building and kind of transforming me into this world and bringing me into it, I mean, I felt like it did,
yeah,
it nailed that. Like I felt like I
hands
was in this
down.
world.
Yeah,
Um, I was so interested to learn more about it, especially the Freeman Society, which is
Fremen.
I assume that's for Fremen, yeah. Um, but like that's
pretty
what
neat.
gets me so excited about. That's what gets me so excited about the second part is that we're probably going to delve right into their society, and
Yeah,
so yeah, just stuff like that was so great,
I
and
like it.
there's so much lore.
Yes, I like that shit. I will say this. I saw the movie with 3 other people, 4 people deep, 2 people, me and Christy. left going, man, that was really that was great. The way they started building the world and the way they show how the story's unfolding was great. The other two people I watched it with, I'll divulge with you two after the show, but I'll keep the names private for the internet's sake. The other two people I watched the movie said I didn't know what the fuck was going on. They're like, I don't know what was happening. And I'll say this, as much as I understood what was happening and stuff, if four people go see a movie and two of them don't know what's going on, that's not a good ratio. But
No,
here's the thing. This is the thing. I don't know that you can complain about this not understanding this movie because it might just not be your thing, or maybe you need to watch it again. But if it was more streamlined, like here's the thing, and this is the point I made about that, because I know some people complain about that. It's like they can't follow the plot or they don't know what's going on. I've watched the original Dune movie. I've never read the book. I watched the original Dune movie. One of the reasons that movie was panned in a way was because it was very complicated, and I know that there's a couple of things they added in editing that fans of Dune didn't like. One is they have a girl at the beginning of Dune basically just explain a lot of stuff. Literally, she just looks at the camera and goes, "The four houses are Harkonnen and blah, 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 blah. And there's spice on this planet, and this planet is controlled by these people." And it's literally just straight exposition to the camera for like 5 minutes. And throughout the movie, and this was the weird thing that a lot of people critiqued, is there'll just be parts in the original Dune movie where a character is standing there or says something, and all of a sudden a voiceover will go over where it says what they're thinking. And it'll be like, look at that. And it was really weird. It reminded me of the way people talk about Blade Runner, how in the theatrical version Harrison Ford narrates because they thought that audiences couldn't follow along. So he has a narration. I think Denis Villeneuve, apologies, this director was like, hey, I'm not going to make the mistake that David Fincher made. I'm going to let the
David
story,
Lynch.
David Lynch. I get those two names confused, but I'm going to let the story speak for itself, and I'm not going to hold the hand of people, you know? And I think it benefits. I think if there was too much
Yeah.
exposition or if they spelled things out or they had to stop to explain things to you, I think it would have brought this movie down a couple
Well,
notches.
that's what impressed me overall with the writing as well, because you're adapting a novel, and the novel, obviously, the benefit of a novel is the inner monologue with the characters. You're
Hmm.
understanding what they're thinking. So in
Yeah.
a movie, it's more difficult to express that because it'd be kind of weird if you just hear inner monologue like 50% of the movie.
Yeah.
Um, so I think overall the writing was a success because there wasn't like maybe like one time, but that was it, where I felt like they were being over exposition. You know what I mean? Like I felt like a lot of the dialogue conveyed what needed to be conveyed, but it felt natural in the conversations that
Yeah.
were going on most of the time.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, to add on, because I don't know the source material like a lot of people watching this movie. I was it because of the world building and because of the great acting and cinematography, and I was intrigued. It kept me intrigued throughout, and I'll say this with thinking about this too with Matt, what you said earlier about how there wasn't a big moment that made you think this was amazing. For me, what made it so great was that because of the world building, this movie built up just step by step by step, kept on getting better and better and better throughout for me. And it's just like I said, that just kept me intrigued because there were so many good moments and such good acting that I just kept on. I was trying to follow along because I was lost a little bit here and there, not completely because I'm obviously listening, but I was intrigued and it makes me want to see this movie again just so I can get all the stuff I missed
Hmm.
and maybe
yeah,
not necessarily read the book or whatever because there are plenty of people that have read the source material that did not like this and I'm like whatever. I mean, personally for me, I did not watch Lord of the Rings, but they did an amazing job obviously with all obviously. I did read the Harry Potter series and they did an incredible job. So it you can't make everybody happy is the point. And
yeah.
for how well and from whatever everybody's saying how well this was done, and like you said, Sterling, the writing to kind of keep people. little bits of information, not too much exposition. I mean, that just adds to how good this movie was.
Well,
Sure.
I think that's a good point too. Like, because like I was saying, there wasn't. I think, and I thought that this is a good. I think this is a good example of a type of moment that I kind of was waiting for. Is one of my favorite moment in any movie is Rise of the Planet of the Apes when Caesar speaks for the first time. When
Mm.
you guys know the scene I'm talking about, where Draco Malfoy is like hitting him or something in
Uh,
that pit. And honestly, that moment when I saw that in the theaters, and most times I've rewatched that movie, gives me chills whenever Caesar speaks and he says no. I think those moments are really powerful, and I think what you're saying is great. Is a good way. It's made me think about it a lot. It's like I like the movie overall. The strength of the movie isn't like some crowd pleasing moment. It's the overall layering of the world building and the writing. And I mean, me and Christy talk about this all the time because we were rewatching the Harry Potter movies and talking about Lord of the Rings. And she's a big reader. I mean, she reads all these books. I don't think she's read Dune when she saw it, but she really liked it. More on her take later. But we talk a lot about how it's hard because some people are hypercritical about movies based on books where they're like, the book was better, the book was better. And it's like, well, what's the difference between a book and a movie? It's information. A book can give you way more information and explanation than a movie can. If you put all that explanation into a movie, it wouldn't be a good movie. And it's hard to find the balance. I think this movie struck a great balance of that. It makes me want to read the book. And who knows, maybe I'll read the book and rewatch the
well,
movie and go, they fucked it up. But I think it'll be worth reading because,
well, yeah, I've listened to about an hour of the audiobook of Dune,
all right.
and
Okay.
and I've heard a lot of people who have read the book, like their opinions on it, and um, considering the amount of complexity in that book and what they were able to execute in this film, I honestly don't feel like they could have done a better job balancing that line of pleasing the crowd and also being kind of a more high-minded science fiction piece of film. So I don't know. I just considering all that I've heard, it seems like overall it's a triumph.
Okay.
For movies. I mean, I was thinking about this the day or two after I saw it. I'm like, the only way I can see this getting better in is if you get had either the same cast or just as good as the cast, and you did a 7 or 10 part miniseries on HBO. Like each one's like an hour and 10 minutes long, so you got like an 8 to 10 hours show. From what I've heard, well, from what I like starting to say, like from here, from people like have read the source material, I'm like, well, that's the only way is to make a good series. And then obviously there's a Lord of the Rings series coming. And there's so many different ways to make something like that. But for a movie to put that much information into one movie and that being only the first part and to have it work that well is great. Oops, the
Yeah.
president's calling me. I got it.
Um, I kind of wanted to jump just a little bit because mostly I'm going to be praising this movie, but I just wanted to kind of delve in a little bit to my negatives overall. Again, going back to the sound mixing, Trey, I remember you asked like what example like could I give, and the one example that I remember where the sound mixing kind of threw me off was whenever he was in the room with the sister, the person who has the
Mhm.
voice ability, who's like in charge of that faction, and he
Yeah.
has the him in his box. There was the part whenever he's like feeling so much pain, and the music just starts building and building and building, and then it cuts back to the mother, Rebecca Ferguson's character, where she's saying some kind of scripture. I don't know what it is really, but there's like parts of it that I could hear, and then parts of it like I had no idea what she was saying. And so, like that's one example where
Yeah.
maybe
Oh, she was mumbling.
intentionally,
I think
yeah,
it was intentional.
I don't. I think that's the thing that's hard. I was going to say there's some parts where I think you're not supposed to understand, or it's at least it's not as
sure,
clear. I can give a very quick example. Now I know that there's going to be stuff that people did hear that I just didn't or didn't pick up on. It's one of those things. But okay, the scene where the Baron By the way, spoiler alert. We haven't said anything yet. We're 20 minutes in. You heard our overall opinions. Spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie, we might say some spoiler stuff here. But when the Baron is sitting at the table eating, which by the way, I wanted to throw up the sound effects of that guy eating. Oof. But when he's at the table and Oscar Isaac is nude, let's get into that later. Why the fuck is he naked? I mean, I didn't mind. It's Oscar Isaac, but he's nude at the table. There's a part where he's just eating and the Baron just says something. And I literally was like, what did he even say? And then it just cut to the next scene. I don't know what he said there.
I don't know what he said
eating
either.
and he was like, rah, 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 rah.
I think I remember understanding him, but because it cut, I was so upset. I'm like, that was a horrible cut, but it came back real quick.
Yeah.
So it kept on going back and forth. So I understood
Yeah.
what he was doing. At first, I'm like, that was stupid to put in there. So it kind of threw me out
Well,
first.
yeah. Well, I think part of the reason too, there were other examples of like not understanding dialogue was that they would throw out terminology that they didn't really give any information beforehand about.
Yeah.
So
like hearing a
so
different
that
language.
example that you, yeah, so that example you gave, Matt, like I think he was talking about the food, like he's because I remember
Okay.
he said something like this is good, and then whatever he said after good,
Oh.
maybe that was the type of food he was talking
This
about.
is
But
good, hooba blobum or something.
yeah, something like that.
Excuse
Something
me?
unique.
Baking powder? What?
Yeah, exactly. So that's one negative I have is kind of mumbly dialogue and sound mixing. The other negative I have, and this negative is subject to change. It's kind of in the moment,
Interesting.
but it is an anticlimactic ending, like it is.
Oh.
And obviously that is by design. So again, it's not like the biggest negative, but it's like it was kind of unsatisfying in a way because it's like, oh, I want more. Like it felt like an end of an episode that, you know, I have to wait like a year or two now to watch the
Like
second
probably
episode.
3.
So, yeah, probably 3 years.
Oh my
now,
God.
Now, good news is that it is greenlit by the studio.
Yeah.
There was a time where that wasn't certain.
I'm glad.
I mean,
can you imagine if they made this movie and we never got a sequel? That would be the worst. That'd be one of the worst.
Blue balls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, as soon as they put up on the screen part 1, I was totally relaxed in the moment. I'm like, okay, part 2's coming no matter what. Like,
It's only 2
there's no
parts
way.
though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say, I told Christy when I left there, I'm like, if they made this 3 parts, I might opt out right now. I don't know if I could do 3 of these. They do 2, fine.
I mean, they're going with you, Sterling. Okay, so this is funny. So I was anticipating the end. So there was obviously Charlemagne, or however you say his name, Timothy. He has a battle with the guy he had dreams about, which I was kind of disappointed that he kills him. Like, isn't he supposed to help you? But maybe the dreams don't correlate with your future. Whatever. So,
Yeah.
so I was like waiting, like, how are they gonna end this? How are they gonna lead into the second part? And I'm watching it, and Amanda was next to me, and every once in a while I would look over and she's smiling because she was getting she situated herself at that moment when they're about to end the movie. She like started like situated herself, and I'm like, so she understands it's about to end. She liked it. She wants to see the second part. She's smiling, and it cuts to black, and I'm like, oh yeah, how'd you like? She's like, that's it. It was just starting to get good. He was so pissed that
Yeah.
it ended because it was finally getting good.
Yeah.
But
Man,
it had that Lord of the
well,
Rings ending, you know?
It did. Actually, I'll say this. There's actually one thing in this movie that I think is actually just bad. Like I said, and I know I said for overall, I don't think you can say this movie bad. There's one thing that I think's bad. Zendaya at the end of the movie saying, "It's only just the beginning." That is the biggest cheesy cliche Hollywood thing. This movie had no Hollywood cheese, it had no cliches, and they had to put that line in.
Yes, they
Why?
did. They had to. It was a
No, they didn't.
necessity.
It was not
It was a
necessary.
necessity. They had to let the crowd
I'll tell
know.
you. Yeah.
The
Would
crowd.
it change your mind? Would it change your mind, Matt, if that was a direct quote from the book?
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
What?
I don't think it's an adaptation of a movie. Just like you said, it'd be weird if there was a bunch of narration. That would make it worse. It's a
Why,
movie. It was the
why are you
70s.
talking like
Come
Tommy was
on.
out right now?
What did you
Like,
say? The fuck
you're
did
talking
you
like
say?
Tommy was out. Movie. I did not hit.
I did
Oh,
not.
is it episode 50? Anyone? Anyway,
I'll love that movie. I'll watch that
we
movie.
got to review it at some point, but I don't know if it'll be
The,
episode
the
50.
combo, the
Maybe episode
combo.
49, but
Disaster
or
artist in that,
episode
but
69. Swing.
that's an
So
awesome power.
Okay, Matt, to jump off what you're saying, it definitely is a cliche. There's no getting around that. But you have the wrong reaction to it. Okay, I liked it. Anyway, let's move
fine,
on.
yeah. Well, you're a big old ball of cheese, my friend. You want to speak of Hollywood cheese? Mr. Cheese, Mr. Hollywood Cheese down here, okay?
Hey.
No, look, that is like I think it is fair praise to say that is the only thing in the theater, the only thing in a 2.5-hour movie that made me go, what? And I think partly why it did, by the way, is because it was an anticlimactic ending, and
Yeah.
this movie, I have to say, this is why overall I have a little bit of a mixed review in a way. This movie did. I know that this movie was just setting up the second part, and there were great moments in it. And it's hard to say that there was anything that was unnecessary in this movie. I think it was fine, but it felt like a middle movie of a 3-parter. It felt like this was a second act filler episode. You know, and that was a thing for me, was that it felt a little like, hey, let's just give you all the information and set everything up. And it's like, you guys know that I'm not a big TV guy. And part of it, and I always say, you know, people go, you got to watch episode 2. And you're like, okay. And you're like, you got to get to episode 4. And then they go, you got to get to season 3, episode 12. And then you'll know. I don't like it when people do that in TV shows. To some degree, it makes sense. Because sometimes you watch episode 1 and you're like, okay. And then by the time you get to the end of the season, episode 1's way better. That's what I think this movie is. I think that when part 2 comes, I think we're gonna be watching part 1 and 2 marathon like it's a masterpiece. But I do think since we don't have the second part, I have to look at this movie as one big whole. It does feel a little long, a little drawn out, and a little bit. Now I'm saying this fully recognizing that by the time 2 comes out, I'm gonna probably be like, it was all necessary, it was all perfect, you know. But it does stink. I gotta wait 3 years for this first movie to be even better? Come on.
Just wait for no. Just wait for the 3 hour and 27 minute extended edition that comes out in 3 months. All right, and then we can talk about it again. And then they've been there in production.
Is this real? Is this real, or are you just joking?
I don't know. I hope you're right, Trey. But Denis Villeneuve, he has a reputation of not doing extended.
Yeah, I know.
This movie is the extended cut. Jesus Christ, let's be honest.
I mean, just that one part with him eating it, and that was one comment that was very specific that I did see, was somebody was so disappointed that the dinner scene wasn't fleshed out. I'm like, oh, like I kind of felt disappointed because they were so mad, like, oh my gosh, they messed that up. I'm like, I wonder what could I. So it makes me want to read just that one part about the dinner scene.
I want to rewatch that too. I was gonna say, not reading the book, but I was gonna say that scene is actually a scene that stood out to me that I really liked. Was Oscar Isaac, the king, or
Atreus. Yeah, the Duke. He's the Duke.
Sorry, yeah, I knew it wasn't king, but the Duke. Whenever he kind of like brings the Baron close enough to him and then releases the poison.
Oh.
That was a great scene.
Cool.
That was a cool scene. And everyone's just dying and they're closing the door. The way it was shot and everything was awesome. And it was cool to have the Duke go out with the bang, because I actually really liked that character. He was sort of like the wise king kind of archetype, kind of a Mufasa type.
Well, go ahead, Trey.
No, you can go.
I just wanted to say that overall the character work, I think, was really well done, especially with like Oscar Isaac's character.
Yeah.
Kind of connecting with him, like just those little small moments of like whenever they're trying to save the workers, you know, in the harvester, and the harvesters are like, we gotta wait, you know, we gotta keep harvesting while the worm is about to kill them.
Yeah.
And he's like, damn the spice, like get in the fucking ship.
Yeah. He was really
stuff like that.
character.
Noble, yeah. So
And
I was sad to see him die.
yeah,
Like I actually was genuinely
he
sad.
and I want to get into this a little bit. He was my favorite character probably. I was gonna say one of the criticisms that we talked about right directly after seeing the movie, and I don't think it's a big issue because I think this is a sci-fi movie, and a lot of it is more about the setting and the situations than specifically the characters. Although obviously it's Paul's journey. I do think I didn't really connect. The characters in this don't have a ton of personality, and I'm not saying they're not interesting characters, but what I mean is like everyone talks in a very orderly kind of sci-fi way,
Yeah.
and I think it was hard to connect to characters in like a personable way. Duncan was probably the most like of a guy who had a personality. But to be honest, Paul didn't really have much of a personality. He had character
Mhm.
traits, like personality traits that were good. And it's not necessarily a complaint for the type of movie it is, but overall, I do think that I didn't really connect with the characters that well. I thought that I liked aspects of them, like I said, character traits. And I do think the Duke in this movie, was one of my favorites. And I think that they're obviously setting Paul up. And he has even at the very end of the movie, I think is when there's a real transformation of Paul, even though it's
Yeah.
building up, which I want to get
Yeah.
into. We talked about, Trey, when you were talking about the guy he kills or whatever, and you were saying he had the dream about it. This is my interpretation. I want to get into the dream stuff because, and this is the type of thing you want to watch this movie 50 times because there's a lot of stuff. Two things, and I wonder what you guys think about them. I could be wrong. I might have missed something. I just saw it once in theaters. I got up to pee once, and there was people arguing in the lobby. So it took me a second. I'll get into that later with Matt's movie
Son of a
theater
bitch.
complaints. But
Yeah,
no,
hey, you can't do that. That ruins the theme. That ruins the movie experience.
I
You can't just get up and leave. That's what
yeah yeah
Christy
yeah
should be saying to you.
yeah yeah
She
yeah
said that to me about There Will Be Blood. I
yeah.
can't skip 10
Hey
seconds with
hey.
of them trying on a horse.
Hey, I can't control my bladder, okay?
Bring a
You got
catheter.
HBO Max. You got HBO Max. You're good.
I can't help
Sorry.
that large root beer. What can I say? I suck it down. I gotta watch 40 minutes of previews. It's gone by the time the movie starts.
God damn.
No, the scene where he fights the guy at the end. He has a vision that he fights the guy, like a dream or whatever, where the guy kills him. And there's a part in the movie where the sister says, do you have dreams that come true? And he goes, not exactly. I think his dreams do come true, but I think that his dreams are metaphorical and they don't match reality of exactly what's happening. My interpretation of his dream that he gets stabbed by the guy is that he is dying. It's his innocence. This is the first time he's killed someone. I think that in his vision, this guy is taking his innocence, and they also say a life for a life. So my interpretation is that it did come true. It was just that in a way, this guy did take his life. Like the guy who kills him,
Well,
who he kills, he did take his life in a way because now he's a Fremen, and that was my interpretation.
well, and also, and this is what kind of helped me watching it a second time, is I was kind of confused on that the first time. Like, oh, like it didn't happen the way I thought it would happen because it seemed like he was going to be taught the ways of the desert from this guy.
Yeah.
Well, watching it a second time, in a way, he did teach him the ways
Oh,
of the
I forgot
desert.
that is the guy in the visions who was going to teach him.
That's what I was talking
Okay,
about.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but his act of killing him in that competition, that traditional competition
Right.
of the Fremen, that in a way
Yeah.
is teaching him the ways of the desert.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, not just losing your innocence, but actually becoming part of the
Yeah.
society.
That's a good
But I
point.
think that, yeah. So I thought that was interesting after seeing it a second time. Like, oh, that makes more sense. Okay, like there are some of these dreams do happen exactly the way that they're shown. Especially Duncan Idaho's death. That happens pretty much
Yeah.
the same way that.
Yeah.
Um, but I think also I think one thing that the movie is trying to hit on is that Paul is being set up as a stereotypical like savior. He's a messiah type character. He is the one. but you learn that basically the sister faction or whatever, they've been going to different societies, including Arrakis, and they've been kind of manufacturing consent on the fact that Paul might be the one, and that's why he is called the Messiah
Mm-hmm.
from a lot of those people near the beginning. And so I think the movie, especially in part two, I think it's going to be more like, well, he's not going to be your typical savior character. Like, there's going to be a lot more complexity to it, and it
Yeah.
might end up being a total failure in the end. So I think that's interesting to definitely think about. And yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys thought about that, but
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of sort of imagery, like things where it's like they things are sort of happening like they're foretold or like he envisions, but not the same way they think. Like if he is a
yeah.
messiah type figure, if he does kind of free these people, it might not be in the way that they think. It
Well,
could be
that vision where he sees the Fremen basically fighting a holy war in his name. Um, you
so
know
dope.
that Yeah, it's pretty dope. But it's like that makes him so afraid though. Like he doesn't want to become that because obviously that could totally destroy and corrupt his character.
Yeah.
That's what I took out of it.
But it's also like the Duke said, there's the great line, which is a good, really good thing, even nowadays, is as if this happened in the past. But yeah, but the Duke saying like great men don't seek to lead, they're called to it. I'm kind of
Yeah.
paraphrasing, but it's like it makes sense that he would be hesitant to be this character, this Messiah type,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
which I want to get into a little bit. Another thing about the bull, they keep showing the bull head. I almost would have missed it, except that Christy mentioned it because I didn't even think about it, even though it was an obvious connection. So it shows this bull head the Duke has, and it's obviously important because the Duke brings it with him to Arrakis, and they show them transferring the bull head, and they show it up on the wall. And there's a part whenever the Duke is talking to Paul, I think at the graves of soldiers or something. I missed a little bit of exactly
I
what that
think
was.
That's when
I think it was the family,
Okay,
the different.
Okay, so it's the old generations. Okay, so they talk.
Yeah.
Paul mentions they're talking about the grandfather and how the grandfather fought like chased bulls or fought with bulls or something like that. And I thought
Yeah.
that was really interesting because the Duke, Oscar Isaac's character is he's very much telling Paul like you need to protect yourself because it's very important that you can. It's like he's very political and the politics are very important and the politics are what's dangerous and you need to be sharp there, and it's important that you don't die in battle or you don't do reckless things. And then there's that moment where they connect with about the grandpa. It's like, well, what about the grandpa, he fought with the bulls or whatever. I had a thought that there's a part when Oscar Isaac is in the when he's paralyzed or whatever, and he's in the dinner scene. It cuts to the bowl another time, and they make it seem like he's thinking about it. I wonder if in that moment he's maybe realizing that there's actually something to be maybe the risk or taking some risks as well and not being so conservative. And my thought was maybe that there was an idea there where he realized maybe him being so protective and so conservative as far as his well-being and Paul's well-being is also what maybe could have put him in this mess in the first place in some sense, and that maybe taking risks is kind of important, like the grandpa fought with the bulls even though he was also a political leader. I need to flesh that out more, but that's one of the
Oh,
things I interpreted from the bull.
yeah. I think that is really interesting. Obviously, another way of saying it too is that he wasn't seeing necessarily the bigger picture, and Paul was starting to see the bigger picture,
Yeah.
especially with his decision to stay with the Fremen.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty well expressed too when he's like, my father didn't just come here for spice, like he came
Yeah.
here for your people.
Yeah.
and your people are actually the desert power. It's not just the spice.
Yeah.
Um, which the
Desert
desert
power.
power that's kind of cool. That's kind of
Yeah,
a
I
cool
like
line.
that. Yeah, I like that.
But yeah, Trey.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to go off of. To both what both of you guys said. I mean, I really didn't interpret a lot of what you guys were saying about the dreams and about the bull. Because like I said, it was my obviously it's all our first time watching it, but I was kind of just trying to like absorb as much as I could and not really think during the movie.
Hmm.
Just kind of let it all like settle in my
Yeah.
mind. And because, like I said, I want to see it again. I could have watched it again on HBO Max, and I'm like, man, maybe it's just may I just go back to the theater because that's the best way to see it again. But like I said, I was really confused about him. I didn't know how the dreams works, and I thought maybe that was like I said earlier, and you guys kind of explained it pretty well about Matt what you said about maybe it was like a metaphor of what was to come instead of an actual reality and which is a good way of it makes me kind of understand a little bit better. But something I will add or say is not kind of off topic, but what when people say like, "Oh, I showed my friend Star Wars, the original, the original Star Wars for the first time." Or maybe the Lord of the Rings, or what some are Back to the Future for you, Matt. I mean, if you met someone that never saw it and had them watch it, and like I'm jealous of them seeing this for the first time, that
Hmm.
with fresh eyes, and even right in this moment, and just today, I'm like, that is what that feels like. Seeing something so
Yeah.
masterful, something so good, for that's that feeling. Like I just watched something great for the first time and it felt great. And I want to hold on to that feeling and I can't wait for the second one. Obviously it'll coincide with this one, but I just want to kind of moving forward like with Eternals or the next Avengers, like don't take I know it's like being all spiritual or like all, life short, I'm not trying to be that way, but like we take it for granted some of the stuff that's created. I know this is like it's not tangible, it's not real, these movies we go watch, but they're part of our lives.
Yeah.
They're entertaining, but it just makes me just sit back and say, just don't take this stuff for the stuff advantage of the stuff because it it's we crap on a lot of movies. We watch a lot of movies, some we like, some we don't like. So they're not
Hmm.
all perfect. And when these kind of moments happen, like I think this is a moment. I think this movie and Christopher Nolan just had a quote. I can't. I'm not. I'll try to paraphrase. He said that this is what art is supposed to be. That's a huge paraphrase. I'm not sure exactly what he said,
He said that
but he
about
saw
Dune.
what's that?
About Dune.
Yeah, about Dune. He
Wow.
watched it and said it was. You have to look at the quote. He was praising it about how
Well,
That's
the
awesome.
good was for the art. So just let me and
yeah,
yeah, just don't take advantage of what this moment is and any moment moving forward. Like I want to watch everything with a fresh set of eyes
Mm.
and feel like I'm watching something great.
Wow. Amen, brother.
yeah,
We should have ended on
that
that.
is a great
Damn.
point.
What, Sterling?
I was
You were gonna
just
say
Woo!
something?
I'm gonna edit
I
that
was just
into
gonna
an
say
inspirational speech and post it on YouTube. Damn.
I
Trey's
was
inspirational
gonna
Dune speech. I'm gonna upload that. Woo!
yeah,
I'm not being
um
sarcastic
I,
either. That was honestly a really good speech.
yeah, it
Thanks.
was. I was just gonna say that there is an interview that Christopher Nolan did with Denis Villeneuve
I
Mhm.
think I've
on
seen
YouTube
that
right
actually.
now. And I think they actually did a screening together, and then they
Oh
did
wow.
a Q&A, or Christopher Nolan interviewed Denis Villeneuve
Oh,
for the
okay.
Q&A.
Okay.
Um, so I watched about the first 10 minutes of it. It's actually really interesting. So,
I can
um,
actually see similarities between them directing wise.
yeah,
I mean, obviously, you know, as all I know of Denny is like the Blade Runner 2049 and this movie, which are both big scale movies. And I know, Christopher Nolan has some smaller scale and some bigger scale, but if you compare it to something like Tenet, it's like it actually has a, whether you like it or Tenet or not. I'm not comparing the movies, but I'm just saying like the
yeah.
style. I was like, I can kind of see similarities between them, which is
Well,
interesting.
they're both similar too in the fact that they're very much like theater purists. Like they love the theater experience,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're all about that. No, Trey, I just wanted to say, like, that's probably the highest compliment I could give something like this. The fact that it is watching something great for the first time. And I think it's definitely the launching point for the next great, not just science fiction franchise, but just the next great franchise.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely a big achievement that,
Yeah, huge.
it's very rare.
Hmm.
Well, I forgot I was like I got in the moment and kept on kind of blabbering, but to add to what I was saying was and I just thought of this. I wanted to add to it was watching it for the first time, which was great. What going with what why I don't like watching trailers. With this, I had literally no idea what this was about. I actually did not know how science fiction it was. I kind of knew. So I thought it was going to be just they're in a desert and there's a war. Um, but when they did the voice thing, all these little stuff that was really science fiction, it really took me by surprise. And I'm like, that was another reason why I was like kind of really cool not knowing anything about it and watching it for the first time. Like I had no idea, and I was in like on the edge of my seat. I know this movie's gonna end, but how are they gonna end it? What's gonna happen at the dinner scene? Like, oh, he has the tooth thing. What's gonna happen? Like, I had no idea what was gonna happen. Like, I had no idea. So that was really cool too, not knowing anything about any of it.
Yeah. Well, a couple things I want to say off Trey, what you were saying, and Sterling backing it up about the enjoying what or appreciating something, an event like this. I think that's a cool. I mean, I didn't quite think about it that way, but that's actually a good way to look at it. I mean, a lot of times people almost don't think about how great something is, especially a franchise or even just a movie, until it's already got a legacy. And I can think about like Lord of the Rings. Me and Christy were talking. What are some of the best, like what are like some of the adaptions that fans of the book absolutely like 100% sign off and love? And really, the only exception we could really think of was Lord of the Rings, because even like Harry Potter, which are good movies, great movies, everyone loves them. A lot of fans were like, "Oh, you left this out and you didn't do that." And Lord of the Rings has some stuff, but Lord of the Rings is one of those things that you feel like unanimously like is just those movies are just like these constantly cited after 20 years, talked about. But it's like I didn't think about it when I was a kid watching Lord of the Rings. I was just like, oh yeah, here's these cool fantasy movies. I appreciate it more now. So I do think it's worth
Yeah.
looking at. This Dune Part 1 and 2 could end up just being, you know, I mean, it'll be interesting. Right now, we just saw a movie a few days ago that is now going to be probably have a legacy for who knows how long.
It'll be a classic for
Yeah.
sure.
And I want to say on that, you were saying you hadn't seen anything about it or anything. I knew a little bit about Dune just because like my older brother was really into the book and stuff. So I kind of knew the sci-fi setting a little bit, but I didn't really know much about the universe. I want to tell this to everyone else who's in the same situation of mine. I watched the original Dune movie, the 80s one, and then watching this one. As far as just movie comparisons, when you watch Dune, the original one, to me, it's like I kind of liked it in a way that it was weird 80s, like really weird movie. It feels like you're watching kind of a Starship Troopers kind of movie or something. This movie feels so different, so night and day difference that the first time I watched the first Dune or whatever, I was like, yeah, this is kind of weird. There's worms. I don't know what's going on. I didn't really care about the universe other than like this is a weird, bizarre movie. This movie, I mean, if you saw the first one, you don't even consider it the same thing. Just go watch the new Dune movie because to me it was such a different thing that I almost don't consider them the same based off the same thing. So
Well, yeah, I kind of want to watch the David Lynch movie now.
it's
To be
worth
honest, just
watching. It's worth
Is
watching
it
because it's bizarre. It's like kind of a weird movie and it's fun to watch. Like I enjoyed
is
watching
it
it.
is it the whole
mhm,
book?
I think it's the whole thing. It's trying to do the whole thing.
Oh wow.
yeah.
So
I'll
So
probably
I know
skip it
some
then.
Dune spoilers from watching it. Although,
Yeah.
like I said, I wasn't as into it, so I wasn't really following along or cared that much about what was going on. So to me, it's like watching a different movie, watching the new Dune. So like, I couldn't even. It's not even spoiled for me because like, there's maybe like one detail I know, but it's kind of a big thing that people probably know from the book and stuff. So,
Hmm.
Yeah.
oh
One more thing, and I think Matt, you
Here
touched
we
on it
go.
just a little bit.
He's gonna turn
Um,
heel. Yes, here we go.
no, no, it's not. It's a positive.
Oh,
Anyway, um,
anticlimactic, just like the movie.
the tone I think is another good thing about this movie too. Like, there's only like a handful of moments where it's kind of more lighthearted or more kind of jokey, but they're not. They don't like go too far. You know what I
Oh
mean? It's
yeah,
not like they're very kind of natural. They're not like it's not like meta type jokes where it's like poking at the genre itself. Um, they're just kind of like kind of funny comments.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
most of the time, though, it's a very gritty tone, very dark tone. And the director does a masterful job. Just like you feel kind of overwhelmed at times too. Kind of in a good way with the tone. You feel kind of exhausted afterwards.
Oh yeah.
Especially, especially like my favorite part of the whole movie is the attack against the
Yep.
Atreides, because just the explosions were so fucking cool. The music, especially my favorite part and part that got me the most hyped was when Josh Brolin's leading all the soldiers, and you just get that massive explosion in between the two armies charging against each other, and then the Atreides theme with the bagpipes just like comes in the background, and it's like, God damn, that was so
Hey,
good.
hey, someone we did not see die. Just saying,
I'm
we didn't
glad you
see him
said that
die.
because I had an argument with Christy. She was like, "Yeah, he died," and I was like, "I don't think so. I didn't he just go and didn't he go follow me?" And they fought, and then I don't remember seeing him die. I didn't see blood spilled.
I mean,
Thanos lives,
you
baby.
they showed Momoa die. They showed Oscar Isaac's character die. There's no way one of those characters are not going to show die. So I think
Yeah.
there's something there
They
to it.
also didn't show the worm die. Think about that. So that
It
worm
didn't
could be.
die. What?
That's what I'm saying. We didn't see the worm
What?
die. It could be in the next movie. So
What? There's dozens of worms. Did
and
you
we
watch the
and
same
we did.
movie?
I know, and we didn't see any of them die, did we? So they could be in
Oh
the
my
next film.
God. What are you doing to me
I don't
now?
know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm being a dick.
No, but anyway, yeah.
What do you guys think? You want to do some closers? Coffees for
Yeah,
closers?
yeah, Matt, did you have any more nitpicks though? We always had to hear them.
Bu- 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 uh, Not really. I'm trying to think. I didn't really, I love a good nitpick. This movie, like I said, it's like my main nitpick was her saying, "This is just the beginning." And like you guys said, it's in the book. I mean, what can I really say? I
I
can't
don't.
really complain.
Well, I don't know if it's in the book. I
You
just
son
gave
of
that
a
option.
bitch. You made me feel like
I
an
never.
asshole over here. You don't even confirm this.
No, no. My question was, if it was a direct quote from the book, would it change your mind on it? That
Um,
was my whole.
what I would say
Yeah.
is no, and the reason why is I try to say that when I watch a movie, I assume that I'm watching this is the art that I'm watching, and I'm not
Sure.
if it's nothing else from the outside should change the way I think about it.
Sure.
But anyway, it's also one of the but it would make me more sympathetic toward it. Like I would be a little bit like, okay, what are you gonna do? You know.
I mean,
Um,
yeah. It kind of felt like a moment like in Lord of the Rings when Sam at the return end of the Return of the King is like, "Well, I'm back," or like, or there I'm back again. I
yeah,
think Bilbo said that or something.
that's true.
Very very tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
But
You, what can I say? You
anyway,
convinced me. So
I love a good tongue. I love a good
I do
cheek.
have some cherry picks, though. I will say that
Okay.
the Baron, first of all, he looked great. I mean, what I mean is I don't know if he's wearing like a fat suit or whatever, but when he's sitting in the steamer or whatever, and you kind of see him from the side, it looked really legit. It did not look like a guy in a blubber suit. Like the
Yeah.
prosthetics or whatever they did with that guy looked really good. He looked very creepy, and I really liked in the old Dune movie. That character's very maniacal, and I actually kind of liked he was almost more intimidating in this movie because the fact that he seemed like he knew what he was doing. So I actually liked him a lot. I'm excited to see more of him in the next movie because I like the scenes that we got of him. But I don't know yet. It was like we just got a little taste of him. Disgusting. But
It's basically Jabba the Hutt with worse abilities.
that's a good point. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say my cherry pick is he obviously has the like implant or whatever in his back that helps him like fly or whatever, hover.
Mhm.
The way they did it, where whenever he would start hovering or whatever, you would hear that like it sounded like his back was popping. It sounded like a knuckle popping kind of weird, gross noise when his back was like, and it'd start lighting up. And that was I love the sound effect there. And there's one my favorite. He's hovering a lot in the movie or whatever, and it could look stupid. That's the thing. It could look goofy. It looked goofy in the first movie. I think considering you have a fat guy floating around a room, it didn't ever. I never sat there and thought this is goofy as hell. You know what I mean? I actually thought it was intimidating. And one of my favorite scenes is when all the soldiers are walking down the hallway and he's just kind of like hovering with them. The way that looked, I thought was so great. I like the way it looked.
Stellan
Um,
Skarsgård's a good actor,
yeah,
so
yeah, no
he's,
doubt.
he's really good.
Shout out to the Scars guards. And I, but
I mean,
another, my other cherry pick is like I said, I really liked, despite the fact that you couldn't really make out what people were saying sometimes. If you're just counting sound effects and music, I mean, I was sucked into the ambiance of the movie, and some standout moments to me was anything to do with the sisters when he first is in the room with the lady, how intense that scene is when he's like in pain, and the way a lot of times when the voice was involved, it would play
yeah.
this certain weird music track where you would just hear like or whatever in the background. I thought that was really cool. I thought it sounded really creepy and like it was just perfect. Like
Yeah.
I thought that was great. So a lot of those things with the music and then I mean this is just to me. Well, I'll save it for the. You want me to just go into the closer, or did you guys have more
Yeah.
cherry
Go,
picked?
go
Because this
for
will
it.
go right into. I think this sums it up. You mentioned the scene where the big attack happens. That was to me the scene in the movie where it's like everything works perfectly. It's like the music, the tone, the effects, the cinematography, that battle happening, and not just the battle, but the king is the duke is dead or being killed or mostly dead. The Paul and the mom are basically going to be killed. Everything is lost. I mean, talk about like, I mean, that's just a great, I mean, that's a great cinematic moment. And I know I talked about how there's no great moments in this movie, but I guess I just mean as far as like a sequence or a scene or like like a thing. That's when everything worked. You were said at the beginning when you were listing like the cinematography, the acting and everything. To me, that was when all of it was in full swing together, and it just was like that's why it's like that was a
Yeah.
great thing, and I think that it summarizes the movie. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think that most of the things that I don't like about this movie or things that bothered me about it are going to be reconciled with the sequel. And I'm concerned. I hope I don't put too much into the sequel. So
Hmm.
I'm going to stay optimistic and think that the things that maybe in this movie that fell a little flat for me are all going to be reconciled in the second movie. And when it comes out, we're going to view this as one big movie and it's going to be perfect. So that's my hope.
Sure. Trey, you want to go?
I can go last.
Okay. So for me, uh, yeah, again, technical masterpiece. Really impressed by it, and I definitely want to see the second part. Um, and I'm glad that overall, as far as my impressions, the two times that I saw the movie, the crowd clapped after the movie was over, and that was really encouraging to see because, again, I do understand people being kind of lost in some of the story elements for sure. Although I do think it does as good of a job as it could have explaining such a grand story. Um, but just seeing the positive reaction and it's making a lot of money overseas and it's making a decent amount here in the States. Um, so I'm glad that we're going to get that second part. And yeah, the acting is very good. Again, some little things like sound mixing could have been better. But yeah, overall, oh well, I guess one other thing too is I kind of wish it was a little bit more violent as far as like not cutting away so much from like decapitations or whatever. Obviously, they wanted to keep it PG-13 for more money opportunity. But I would have liked to see more kind of blood spurts or whatever. Um, but overall, like the combat, I thought was really well done. Like hand-to-hand combat was actually pretty. It felt very physical, which is about as good as I could have said, about the whole thing. Like it felt very visceral. So yeah, overall, really enjoyed it. I recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys put it on the nose there. I mean, obviously, we loved the acting. We loved how it was filmed. I mean, man, I just I want to see it again. I'm jealous of Sterling seeing already twice in theaters, so I might have to go find some time
Might have to
and
find
do
some time to drive on down to Kansas and see it with your boy.
that. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Give me some of
Uh,
that money. I guess,
dog
man.
you. Yeah, I mean, I there's not much I can add, like, 'cause we've said it. I mean, goodness gracious, maybe maybe something will happen where my mind will change. I don't know. I can't see that happening because this movie, it just built. It was so consistent in like how it brought you in, like the visuals, like from planet to planet. I mean, I don't know how they made a desert look so gorgeous, as a confidant of ours would say. Um, but um, I mean, they did a spectacular job. I can't wait for the sequel. I can't wait for this to become a classic. I can't wait for to watch it again because there's a lot that I missed because you guys said a few things I'm like or took an interpretation of something I didn't really see or think about while I was watching it because I can't wait to maybe have a second experience actually be feel like a first because I'm like seeing new things because that's the depth this movie had. It was really deep, had a lot of material, and boy, if the next one is just as good, I mean, this is gonna be the two-part movie that we're gonna be talking about for until we're dead. I mean, spectacular.
I
Just
I will
like
say
it's such
this.
a
I think for the first time in Schmuck history, I think maybe the next review we do, we should take 10 minutes out at the beginning and do Schmuck's rewatch, and we can all, after watching it a second time. I know you've already watched it twice, Sterling, but after me and Trey watch it again, we can, after sitting on it for a week, we can do a little bonus. Like what do we think after sitting on it? Because I think some
Yeah.
of the things you guys were saying were making me think about the movie differently. Now I really want to watch it again.
I'll probably watch it the third time, to be
Wow.
honest.
Wow,
Huh.
that's a lot of hours you're sinking into Dune.
I got time.
Since when does Grandma go to the Dune 3 times in a row? Napoleon Dynamite reference. All right, Trey.
Yes.
You wanna
Yes.
you wanna close this out?
I mean, people. I mean, if you haven't watched the movie and watched us go through this whole thing, do us a favor.
What are you
Click
doing?
on HBO Max. Go. Better yet, go to the theater or Dolby Cinema. Because man, this
Yeah.
was an experience unto itself. But thank you for joining us. I mean, it's fun as always. I mean, comment below. Like, this is a movie we should be talking about everywhere. I mean, come on. Like, this is I won't say revolutionary, but this was pretty darn close to how filmmaking should be done. So comment below, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the Film Schmucks.
Cut it. All right.
Got that.
Cut it? What? I thought you were gonna do the cut it thing.
I did. You didn't hear it?
No, I didn't.
Oh, I just said it. Sterling, you heard me say it, right?
I no, we couldn't hear you.
Cut it. Oh boy, I thought I said it. I didn't say that to you, but
Actually, more stuff that I actually wanted to talk about, but again.
So
I know.